Welcome to Breaking the Silence, a podcast produced by Angels Protection, Inc., where we amplify voices that challenge inequity, protect dignity, and work to transform the systems that shape our lives. I'm your host, Makaila Davis, founder and chairwoman of Angels Protection, Inc. And today's episode is a part of our Justice Blueprint series, where we spotlight legal professionals, advocates, and justice-centered leaders who are working towards to ensure that the law remains a tool for protection, restoration, and opportunity, not just procedure. The series exists because justice is not automatic. It requires advocates, it requires courage, and it requires legal professionals who understand that the law should serve communities, not intimidate them. It's about access to justice, it's about protecting families, and it's about advocacy. And this conversation is more than just legal practice. And it's about building legal pathways that help people move forward, not remain trapped by past circumstances. And today's guest embodies that commitment. Rodlena Sales is founder and managing attorney of the law office of Rodlena Sales, Esquire, an experienced attorney who has been practicing law in Pennsylvania for more than a decade. Her law practice focuses primarily on estate planning and estate administration, helping families protect their assets, plan for the future, and ensure that generational transitions are handled with clarity and care. But her work extends far beyond wills and estates. Her legal expertise spans a wide range of matters that deeply impact individuals and families, including Social Security cases, employment discrimination, unemployment compensation, family law matters such as custody, support, divorce, and domestic violence protection, as well as expungements and pardons that help individuals rebuild their lives after contact with the justice system. At the core of her work is a belief that legal representation should be both accessible and empowering, ensuring that individuals understand their rights and have advocates who will stand with them through complex and often overwhelming legal processes. She's also a proud graduate of Howard University, one of the nation's most historic institutions for cultivating leaders committed to justice, public service, and advocacy. She later earned her law degree from North Carolina Central University School of Law, another institution deeply rooted in tradition of civil rights law and community advocacy. At her time at Howard helped shape her understanding that law is not simply a profession, it's responsibility to use knowledge and access to protect communities and advance equity. Throughout her legal career, Rodlena has been recognized for her commitment to service, receiving honors for her volunteer work, supporting victims of domestic violence, and providing pro bono legal assistance to community members in need. Beyond the courtroom, she's someone who values balance, curiosity, and creativity, enjoying time outdoors, hiking and camping, as well as engaging with the arts through theater and museum exhibitions. What sets her apart is her ability to combine legal expertise, compassion, and advocacy, ensuring that law becomes a pathway towards stability, protection, and second chances. And we are so honored to welcome you to the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Makaila. I appreciate the invitation.
Same here. And I just kind of want to start the conversation off like what first inspired you to pursue a career in law?
Sure. My mother is a survivor of domestic violence. And so, as a child at a very young age, I indirectly watched and experienced that with her. And so, while when I was young, I couldn't exactly name what it meant to be that person to help her out with the legal matter. I just said, I want to do that. I want to help you. And so as I got older, of course, naturally, I met people who could kind of tell me, you want to be a lawyer. And so that was kind of like my first interaction in terms of knowing that I wanted to become a lawyer. And as I grew up through grade school, middle school, high school, I met people along the way to help cultivate and allow me to understand what it meant to be an attorney, a lawyer. And so I never let that go. That dream never died. And it carried on from childhood into adulthood. And so it was just something that I knew I wanted to be the person that could help out people like my mother. So I always tell people I'm the lawyer that I wanted to see growing up. And so that's the beginning. That's the beginning inspiration of this whole journey.
No, definitely. And also, I think that also ties into my next question as well. So, how did your experiences at Howard University shape your perspective on justice and advocacy?
Sure. One of the main models or things that you hear over and over, even before I started at Howard and when I was going through the application process, they had us draft a personal statement narrative, I guess you call it nowadays, as to truth and service and how you would serve your community now as a college student and in the future. And so it's always been ingrained because I've grown up in a family that is service driven. But then when you go to college and they remind you of the shoulders that you stand on, and that the need to constantly reach back and pull forward as you're moving forward. It's just been something that has stayed with me. And so Howard was always talking about service, 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 commitment to your people, your community. And so that is something that has been a part of my education, but also as part of the professional part. And so that experience has taught me the need that no matter what I do, especially and particularly as an attorney, you're constantly doing whatever you're doing for your community, whether that's directly or indirectly. And so it's always in the back of my mind. It's always something I'm thriving for and just doing as an attorney. So yeah, the truth and service part. I said a lot, so that made some sense. But truth and service, the service part has always it's been the biggest part of everything I do, especially my profession.
No, I agree. And Howard has a great, reputation for being the HBCU and the work that they do. So, yeah. So I think
She
it's
said the.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
I have to note that I did go to North Carolina Central University for law school. And it's the same, there is a foundation of truth and service there. So that we are all, in a sense, Howard is one of the best universities, but they all have some level of service commitment.
definitely. And that's important too. Always, bringing people forward and reaching back.
Mhm.
And that's the whole point. Even when you're moving forward in your career, not forgetting folks that are behind that may need assistance and support. Um,
Right.
so always, keeping the community at the forefront. So I kind of also wanted to touch on too. So many people feel intimidated by the legal system. So how can attorneys make people um, and help the legal processes more accessible and less overwhelming for clients?
Sure. So I'm the type of lawyer that likes to teach. Sometimes it drives my clients crazy, but my thing is knowledge is power. So at the end of the day, when I'm working with clients or prospective clients, or I'm just talking to people generally about the law, I want to make sure that I'm able to kind of dime it down to everyday layman's terms, as people say, to one, let the person know what is being done, because I think that is important. Regardless of whether or not you have a lawyer, you're your best advocate. So I always think that is essential to bring in more people into the justice system and legal system. If you understand, if you know it, if it makes sense to you, then more people will trust it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but they may have people have a greater level of trust in when they understand it. And so that part I think is key to really bridging and bringing more people into an understanding of justice in the legal system. And so that's how I try to handle it, because there's lawyers have a bad rep. Everybody knows that. And there is a reason why we go to law school for 3, 4 years, however long that might be. But at the same token, there's not enough lawyers to help out everybody up in the United States. And so I always tell people, especially colleagues, like if you're teaching, even if a person represents themselves or they're talking to other people, at least they're not giving them false information. And they may be able to help themselves as well if they can't get the lawyer that they need. So I think that's essential in the justice system, to bring more people in and have a greater understanding. And I hope I answered that question, because I kind of went
No, no, no. It's a
off.
full circle. And even when you touch on that, there are lawyers that have a bad rap, but there's great lawyers out there that are doing the work.
Absolutely,
Oh,
a whole lot.
yeah.
It's just as many as good. You have bad, but that's the dynamics of any profession, right? So, yeah, absolutely.
No, which is really important. I love how you touched on that. And I also wanted to touch on too. So estate planning, it's often overlooked in many communities. So why is it so important as a tool for protecting families and building generational stability?
Well, first of all, you can't really grow anything or even uh, preserve what you have if you don't know what you having an estate. And so I always tell people, a lot of folks focus on estates being after death, right? When you die. But while we're living, what we own is our estate. And so it's just essential to a biggest part about estate planning is knowing what it is you own. And even if it's something very little, is your clothing, a few dollars in your bank account, that is your estate. That is your assets. And I can't even think of the word, your not equity, but the valuation of your assets. And so no matter how small or big, it's essentially it's very essential that you understand that part. And then once you know that, you can preserve that, protect it, and then grow it, right? And no one wants to live however long you live, preserving and protecting something and then dying and it kind of being swindled away or thrown away. And so that's where the whole after death part comes, trust and wills. And so I always tell people, it's like, I don't want to work my entire life. And then if I do have wealth at death, it doesn't go to the next generation or whoever you want it to go to build it. And that's why it's essential to protect what you have while you're here and to grow it, and then to take that to the next generation, whomever that might be, to allow them to preserve, protect, and grow, and down the line and down the line. So estate planning, it's key. We cannot build wealth. We cannot build generational wealth if we're not protecting, preserving what we have now, and then ultimately after death.
I agree. And it's really important, especially when we're talking about communities of color,
Mhm.
um,
Absolutely.
doing that because a lot of us feel like we don't have access to it or it costs too
Mhm.
much. But
Yeah.
the thing I learned from my grandpa um, was that, and he told me, he said, Kayla, make sure you do this, is that you have a will, you have a big
Hmm.
trust,
Hmm.
put
Yeah.
together, and life insurance.
Right. Yep. And I would agree.
And that stuck with
Yeah.
me out of everything. He was so serious.
Yeah.
He made sure
Yeah.
he had all his ducks in a row, house paid off, from
Hmm.
early, had all the
Yep.
other things, put together.
Hmm.
So, and I love my grandparents.
Hmm.
They were
Yeah.
the wisest out the family. So, it's so
Mhm.
important. And like you touched on, making sure that
Yeah.
you have those documents so you can build wealth and pass something.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think the biggest thing too is also to note that even if you don't own a home,
Mm,
um, if I if someone dies with $100 in their banking account and they gifted whatever in a residual kind of estate to whoever that person might be, that $100 can grow into something great, right? It can be invested into something. And so I just have to note that oftentimes in communities of color, even in non-communities of color, right? Like the thought is just to have a whole lot. But you may, of this generation, have very little, but whatever little you have, as you're mentioning about your grandparents or your grandfather, that can build to the next generation where they can have greater. And so that's the thing, is I always have to emphasize, because people say, estate plan, they're only going to estate plan if they have a house, and always try to do away with that myth, or the thought process of doing it. It's like, no, estate plan, even if all you have is a savings account, right? Or a checking account, because I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, you're going to leave with something in that account. And so I just wanted to emphasize that part too, because oftentimes our communities do not have a whole lot, but we're never going to have a whole lot if we don't preserve and protect what we have now, and then ultimately transfer it, devise that, give it to someone, give it to the next generation so that they can grow that. And so I just had to say that part.
No, no, no. That's really important. I appreciate you touching on that because I think that's a big thing too. Especially with even my generation, it's harder to accumulate things.
Yes.
So even if of course, you will have a job at least, and you'll have
Hmm.
money coming in. So you're leaving, and if that's all that's in there, that's important that you put that. somewhere and you put that in, a will and in a estate so it can go to someone because if not, then it will sit in there. I've had,
Yeah.
seen situations with family members and even talking to, friends of people passing and, it's the same story of, oh, well, they didn't put nobody's name down on the bank account as the
Hmm.
beneficiary. So now
Hmm.
it's taking, a whole lot to even pull the little
Yes.
bit that's in the account, the bank won't give anybody access to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. And that's why life insurance is important too, as you mentioned. I know this isn't a talk about estate planning, but like you said, life insurance is another way to build wealth too. And that's a conversation for another day. But that's oftentimes as communities of colors, we do not recognize that, but other communities do. They understand how you can build wealth with life insurance. So I'm glad you had said that as well.
no, it's really important. And making sure you have the documentation to back it up. 'Cause like I said, it's really difficult for some folks to get access to bank accounts and uh,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
back
Always
and forth with the
happens.
bank. Yeah. And
Yeah.
oh no,
Yeah.
I'm actually their family member. you know,
Yes,
or
yes, yes.
even been,
Yeah, Makaila, I can go all day, every day. It's all like hours, should say, about estate planning. So don't get me started
yeah,
on that. You better move to that next
yeah.
question because I'm telling you.
Um, So like, kind of also want to ask too, so for most of the folks that might not know, what, as you're serving on the board of directors of Angels Protection Inc., so what drew you to board service of Angels Protection Inc. and serving in a leadership role for young women and mothers here?
Sure. You, when you reached out to me, and you sent me the initial message, that linked me to look at more into it. I just loved, your presentation, the invitation, and just the the concept is unusual and different. It's something I had not heard about before in terms of a nonprofit creating an organization for this particular purpose. And so that's really what drew. It was you as a human being, your aura, your vibe, and then the mission behind the organization. And so yeah, I really appreciate the work that you constantly do for the organization and just being a part of something so great.
No, I agree, and it's been a wonderful thing, having you a part of the board service in the leadership role, and and it's just where it's growing to now, over the past few years. So, really important, showing that representation through the leadership of the org down to the volunteers. Um,
Mhm.
and then also wanted to touch on too. So, you've been recognized for your work supporting domestic violence victims. So, what role do attorneys play in helping survivors reclaim safety and independence?
So it all depends. I mean, of course, naturally, and when I did the work, and still now, oftentimes lawyers are the legal, excuse me, advocates. And so you're in the courtroom, you're advocating for what is called protection from abuse orders for the victims, the survivors. But then there's also the counseling component of it that oftentimes lawyers do. Because I mean, as you already know, trauma doesn't occur in a silo, right? So it's not one thing that happens. There's multiple things as you're going through whatever the trauma, in this particular case, domestic violence. And so lawyers are oftentimes counselors, giving that legal advice, but also advising, counseling the victim, the survivor on next steps outside of the justice system. And so there, it's a I think when I was and I can't speak for all attorneys who do domestic violence work, but when I did it, because my mother is a survivor, and then having other close individuals who have experienced it, as an attorney, it's a dual role. And as I was saying, the advocacy part, but also the counseling part, and it both are equally important. And so, and having both of those roles, as we were talking earlier, it helps because victims oftentimes are not trusting of the system. It helps the victim survivors trust and believe in the protection that the court system that can provide, police can provide. And so the role is essential to have attorneys there. I'm glad that the funding continues, especially in the state of Pennsylvania, to have attorneys and victim advocates continue to do the work that they're doing across the county. So yeah, yeah, it's a role that is necessary and needed. I necessarily need the same thing, right? So yeah, it's definitely needed. So yeah.
No, I agree. Um, and I'm glad that the funding it's still going to as well, especially in
Mhm.
trying times and the way that the climate
Yes.
is. And it's really important. Um, so also too wanted to touch on expungements and pardons can dramatically change someone's future. So why are these legal tools so important for individuals seeking a fresh start?
To I don't think I need to explain that, but I will because of the things like employment and housing. So when I did the work, and I keep on saying I would do it because, as you mentioned, a lot of the work what I do now is estate work. But when I was doing expungements and pardons, it was to help a lot of my clients, one, find employment, and then two, also to gain access to housing. And so both of those things without having stability in terms of home and then the ability of having income, of course, we know that disrupts the family's dynamics. And so oftentimes, even though employers are not supposed to focus on criminal background history, and even if there is, if it's not related to the job or the employment, they shouldn't focus on it. We got to be honest, that happens. And so when the record is expunged and or pardoned, which is a lot more difficult to get in terms of a pardon, it helps that in the individual having a fresh start, and they don't have to worry about an employer or a landlord or whoever that might be looking at finding the criminal record and preventing them from having access to employment or housing. And there's a lot of other reasons why one would get an expungement or pardon, but I'm just focusing on those two areas that is primarily important to most individuals who are seeking either one expungements or pardons.
No, yeah, and it's really important too. I think that people deserve a second chance if you're doing the work and
Mhm.
you're going through the process of to be pardoned and the expungement process, whatever is set by the judge that did it.
Yes.
If you see it through to the end, you do deserve that.
And individuals who do both of the processes for both of them are so time consuming and it's just so taxing and tedious, so taxing. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot. So individuals who are actually seeking pardons and expungements, they definitely know the importance of walking the straight and narrow, right? Uh, Taking that second chance and using it for the best, for the best. And so I hate when I hear individuals say, well, if we give people, when you hear people talk about expungement, if we give them this second chance, are they going? Trust me, if someone's going through that process, they're serious about it. It's not. There's quite a bit of steps to get it. So I would agree with you having the ability of these processes, both of them, to give the individual a second chance, because I can tell you not everybody that probably seeks it is going to do the right thing, but most of the time they're going to do the right thing and they deserve that second chance.
Yeah, and that's also too, not everyone that seeks it gets approved for it. It's another
And
thing.
that's true.
So there's
Yeah,
folks
yeah,
that will go through all that and then they don't get it. But
yeah.
still, I think it's important having that as an option for folks.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, you're more likely to get the expungement than the
yeah,
pardon.
yeah.
Pardons are Yeah. So yeah, again, I know this isn't about, well, I'm not gonna get deep into the into either one, but yeah, I would agree with you. It's not always guaranteed to be granted. You do have to have great applications and petitions to make sure that you're presenting your best self before the tribunal or the board of pardons or whatever whichever one you're doing. So yeah.
which means fully cleaning up your act for, and if it was
Mhm.
a really bad act, that's a lot of
Mhm.
cleaning up and, you know,
Yeah,
making sure it's not like, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing it today. I'm going to go apply for this tomorrow. And,
exactly.
and then think, oh, 6 months is going to, no, they're going to be like, oh, well, I want to see X amount of
Right.
years that you
Yeah.
were actually doing,
Yep.
having a clean act, not just, oh, I did
Hmm.
a couple of months and I'm a new person. Absolutely
Exactly.
not.
Yeah. Yep. They have
Absolutely.
done the work before, during, and what we hope to God they keep it up after. Exactly. Yep.
So
Hmm.
I just think that's so important, like, and appreciate, the work that you do and the advocacy component because it's so important, having great representation, during those processes. Like I
Hmm.
said, it's not easy for folks to get through that. We do,
Yep. I
at
would
the
agree.
nonprofit, a little bit of advocacy work around uh expungements regarding the 302 expungements. So doing a little bit of advocacy work there. So folks know what that
Hmm.
looks like. If, you with parents, a lot of times they'll push for their kids to get a 302 instead of
Okay.
the 201, and a 302
Okay.
that stays on your record
Hmm.
with mental health. And that can impact you down the line. If you try to get a government clearance, you can't get
Okay.
it, even if you have that as
Yeah.
a minor. If you go in
Yeah.
as a 201 to a mental health facility, it's still on your record, but you willingly went in for mental health services versus being forced.
Hmm.
So it's so important, even there, that folks know how this, decisions can impact you.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
now those, folks can't get a certain type of job, or they can't go to the military, or
Hmm.
they can't have their license to carry because they had that, forceful visit to
Exactly.
facility. So, and it's just so important that for people to understand how laws and
Hmm.
regulations work, and that you
Hmm.
can't just do
Yes.
what you want to do when you want to do it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's just so important. So I also wanted to kind of ask too, like, so how important is representation within the legal field when it comes to building trust between communities and the justice system?
Representation, like how women, people of color, I'm sorry. You
Oh
said
no, just
how,
like, so how important is representation within the legal field when it comes to building trust between the community?
oh, legal representation. Gotcha. Very, very, very important. All capital letters. I mean, I don't have to say this. I'm going to say it again, but the reality of it is I can't tell you how many times people, when they speak to me, whether it's a consultation or they're just reaching out to inquire about my services, how they talk about distrust with attorneys. And so I pride myself. I'm not a perfect attorney, but I pride myself on providing top-notch legal representation. I don't care if the client is paying me a few $100s or thousands of dollars. And so I think it's just essential in terms of individuals understanding that it doesn't matter how big or small your case is, that you're always going to get the best legal representation, and not only just good in terms of the quality of work, but honest, right? Honest with your client, honesty with your clients, honesty or professional, I should say, professionalism with your clients and professionalism with your colleagues, as well as the tribunal, the courts, the work, people who work in the courts, etc. And so legal representation is all of that, right? Your clients see all of that. And that is important in the work that we do, so that when people do, whether whatever they need to retain an attorney for, that whole distrust goes down and the trust increases. And that's what I always try to tell when people reach out to me and then they ultimately become clients. I'm like, I'm sorry you had a bad experience with a previous attorney. Hopefully my legal representation can help build your trust for future with me, and for future other attorneys that you work with, so that people will continue to reach out, retain, and utilize lawyers. So it's just so important. I can't stress how important that the way we represent our clients, or how it affects future, etc., in terms of clients or just people who are seeking legal representation. So
No, I agree, and I think it's really important too, and that folks note that even if you had a bad experience with an attorney, like you said, like not all attorneys are like that.
No.
And also to not trying to self-represent yourself.
Right. Right. Right.
Really important because
Yeah.
I think sometimes too people will see, and just because we're in the era of social media, we'll see social media think, oh well, I can represent myself. I'm seeing legal advice on TikTok. Like I can
Mhm.
go, I'm going through this scenario, I could do it myself. No,
Mhm.
you really cannot. You
Yeah.
are not an
Yeah.
attorney. You did not go to school for that. And
Mhm.
yes, because they have that JD and that Esquire, that does make them smarter. You
Right.
know what
Right.
talking about. So it's important to
Yeah.
gain real representation and not try to, think like, oh, I learned something from Instagram. I know I could be my own attorney. Absolutely not.
Well, I have to note a lot of times too, Michaela, is expense, right? So lawyers are notoriously known for charging a lot of money for very little little things. And so I always tell individuals that I speak with, I'm like, not all lawyers are out there to get every dime that you have. And this goes back to what I said earlier. And I really try to be the lawyer that I wanted to see, right? That I want to see. And so there are plenty of lawyers like myself that have reasonable fees, payment plans, everything to help you get the best legal representation. You don't have to represent yourself. And I'm not talking about just legal services or nonprofits that do legal work. There are private attorneys out there. You just have to find them. Not every lawyer is going to charge you a whole lot of money to provide the necessary representation. And not only is it the trust, but it's also the expense factor, right? And so I just wanted to note that that you can CAN find reasonably priced attorneys too as well to help out.
I agree, especially when you touched on too, that there are those private attorneys like yourself that are doing the work and
Mhm.
offer different plans and options.
Mhm.
Make sure you could still get those services, whether it's a payment plan, working out that
Right.
agreement, I know some attorneys do like fee scales,
Mhm.
depending where you
Yeah.
are,
The low bono. Yep.
yeah.
There is a
So,
such thing as low
yeah.
bono.
So,
I do that often. So, yep.
but it's really about finding those attorneys that are private and not at those big firms, because that's
Exactly.
really where
Yep.
the payment, well,
Yes.
upstart is coming
Yep.
from those big attorney firms, and folks are looking up to
Exactly.
them,
Yep.
to get matched with somebody that has 50 plus years of experience,
Hmm.
that only has worked at big firms and that make,
Yep.
see cases that are big cases, X amount, thousands of
Hmm.
dollars. So, yeah, just having to do a little bit of research and find those private attorneys that do the work on.
That right there, the research.
Mhm. Because
Exactly.
so I also wanted to ask too, so what advice would you give to students considering law who want to pursue careers rooted in justice and service?
That's a great question. My thing is if you're going to become an attorney, you really should make sure it's something that you want to do because it is a lot of work, it is a lot of time, and it's a lot of money. So, as I mentioned, I was always sure of the path. And thank God he's always guided me through the path, even when there were challenges. But when I tell you, or a lot of people will tell you, law school is very difficult. And sitting for a bar or bars, however many states you want to practice in, it is very challenging. And so you just need to know for certain that this is something that you want to do because even before you can even get to the bar, you got to get through undergrad and you got to get through law school. And then again, that's a time commitment. You're talking about 7 years at the minimum. And so be know that that's something you want to do and be prepared to work. For some people, it comes real easy, but very few because the way you learn how to think as an attorney is a whole new way. And so, be ready to work too. Read and write and work and know that this is what you want to do.
No, I agree. And I think also too, like when you touched on too, like the biggest component is knowing that this is something you want to do because it is a commitment. Um,
Absolutely.
any terminal degree is a commitment and takes
Mhm.
a lot of pre-work to get up into that point. like you guys have to study for it's the LSAT, right? The
That's before you get into law
for the law
school.
school. So you got
Not much studying. It's just prep,
to
test prep that you have to
yeah.
go.
But just like those little things too, right there, like
Yep,
there's things that you have
exactly.
to do to prep
Yep.
yourself, make sure you get a good score so you could hopefully
Hmm.
get into the good school or the school that you really want to get into and
Yeah.
scholarships and things like that. And then also you touched on like how expensive it is. It's a huge
Hmm.
financial commitment. So knowing that you want to do it. Um,
Hmm.
Also too wanted to touch on when you think about long-term impact of your legal work, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave?
I mean, I think I probably kind of touched on it throughout this time, but I mean, I can definitely re-emphasize a few things. Again, I don't when I'm dead and gone, hope to God, 40 plus years from now, right? Um, that people will remember me as an attorney like no other attorney, not because I was very wealthy, not because I was the most popular lawyer in whatever city, town, state, but because of the fact that I was the lawyer that they could relate to. I was the lawyer that really truly advocated for them, and that I was the lawyer that did provide them with the best legal representation service, despite their ability to pay me a lot or little. And so, in essence, I want to be known to be the lawyer that I wanted to see, right? That person that I did not see, whether it was in the courtrooms, in a legal office, or whatever that might be. And I hope that people see, what is the word I'm looking for, like that I was un, unconventional, right? And then I also, because I do emphasize a lot of pro bono work coming from the legal services background, I do want people to remember the service, the time that I put in terms of helping out people within my community, particularly my community, to help, whether it's estate planning, whether it's expungements, whether it's pardons, whatever it might be, that I was a community lawyer, helping out even when providing legal services, even when it did not come with a paycheck. So the service aspect of it and the unconventional part is the legacy. I don't want to be, I don't want to look like any other lawyer in a good way. Follow the rules like every lawyer, right? Ethical like every lawyer should be. But I want to be remembered as Rodlena Sells, right? As this is what she did as an attorney. And the reason why I can remember it, because it was different than other lawyers. If that makes any sense, right? So yes, that's the legacy of service and an unconventional attorney.
I agree. And I think that is the legacy, making sure that you're, standing out, but you stood on service, you know,
Uh-huh.
and making sure, with still volunteering and doing that work for whoever needed it. And that's really
Hmm.
important and critical. And then now the $1 million question, how can folks stay connected to the work that you do,
Sure.
impact that you make?
Yeah. So I'm putting a plug in for my practice, right? Because I want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm doing doing this right. So my firm is the law office of Rodlena Sales Esquire. I do not have a website, but I am on social media. So on Facebook and Instagram, it's Rodlena Sales Esquire on both social media outlets. And if you Google me, Rodlena Sells, both of the Facebook and the Instagram page will come up on Google. So feel free to reach out through social media, LinkedIn, that also has phone number and email. And I always say this, even if it's not an estate planning or state matter, I feel free to reach out. I know quite a bit of attorneys, and I'm very resourceful in helping individuals find lawyers. So you can always feel free to reach out about any type of legal matter, and I'm happy to direct you to someone personally in terms of a colleague that might handle the matter, or an organization or nonprofit that you can reach out to assist.
No, definitely. So guys, please take advantage of that because she's doing amazing work with her practice. And also, that connection piece, because again, having a connector to a certain field is so important.
Mhm.
And because you have access to things that the regular rest of the population does not. So, and guys, she will be tagged on everything from Instagram to the Facebook and on LinkedIn. And now I just also wanted to say, just thank you so much for your dedication to justice, your service to communities, and your commitment to using the law as a tool for protection and empowerment. Your work reminds us that justice is not simply defined by court decisions. It's defined by whether people have access to the advocates who will stand beside them. Through your leadership, compassion, and legal expertise, you are helping families protect their futures, helping survivors find safety, and helping individuals reclaim opportunity. And to our listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, stay connected with Breaking the Silence and Angels Protection Inc. as we are continuing to elevating leaders who are building stronger systems of justice, advocacy, and community empowerment. And remember, sounds protect systems, not people. So let's keep breaking it together. And like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.